Hey everybody, CJ here, and I've decided to make two videos. Two videos. First one was just about the Voltaic Pile, and I was not planning on redoing it, but I got to thinking, one of the reasons why one of the coin pairs was not producing the same voltage as the others might have been the fact that the electrolyte was not making good contact between both of them. So I'm gonna change my experiment a little bit. What if between the electrodes, the coins, what if between the coins, instead of a paper napkin saturated in electrolyte, I instead used just the electrolyte itself? Well, let's see what happens. I mean, that's the nature of an experiment, right? Try something out, see if it works, if it does what you expect it to do. So all I am doing here is wetting. You can see there's a drop of what I'm calling pickle juice. It's actually a mixture of salt, water, and vinegar, and herbs and spices and whatnot. I'm sure there's some other stuff in there too. But I'm just putting a drop of that on these two coins, between these two coins. One being the United States nickel, 5-cent piece, not to be confused with the metal nickel. I think at one time it had nickel in it, but now it's a combination of zinc and some other stuff. Okay, I've got my multimeter on the 20-volt scale, and I'm not getting enough of anything between these to register. So that's clearly not going to work. So I must have something between them. But I've got that piece just super saturated so that the metals are not touching. And maybe that was the problem, is that setting it on top of each other, the metals actually were touching. Now they're saturated, and this is 0.4 volts, going up toward 0.5, almost half a volt on this one cell. Okay. Well, let's repeat the experiment, this time using oversaturated pads of electrolyte. I feel I should not have to say that, but I know what it sounded like in my head. So now everything is oversaturated to the point of almost being too wet. Now we're up over 1.25 volts almost. We're getting there. 1.25 volts. Okay. So maybe that was my problem. Maybe my electrolyte pads were too dry. Now, of course, you don't want them to touch the pads, because then you're basically shorting out your cells. And you want as much clean surface on your electrodes, the coins, as you can get. So that you get plenty of contact with the electrolyte. Unfortunately, I think my electrolyte is a little too wet, and it's probably dripped quite a bit. So I'm going to see if I can't pick up this entire stack. I don't have anything. Yeah, I do. This is why I collect trash, or at least what seems like trash to my wife. But for everything, there is a purpose. I'm going to have to move him off to the edge. All right, I want to squeeze the electrolyte out to where it drips off, while pinching these nice and tight so they don't fall apart. And making sure that they stay separated so they do not short out. Move it back into view. Get my not quite enough to light an LED. And of course you can see that when I put a little bit of pressure on it, it does change the voltage some. Possibly because the electrolyte is shorting out between the cells. Possibly not. I've got enough to add one more. Actually two more now that I look. Only this one hasn't been polished any. Of course, paper money will not do. Paper's non-conductive, as I'm sure all of you know. Got a coin there, a coin here. And let's see what I get. Alright, my daughter is joining me, but I've asked her to stay quiet for this. 2.78, okay. Let me turn off the brighter lamp. And I will get an LED back out. There's a wall there. Alright, let's see if... Let's see if this one will light. I have to spread them apart a little further. This is a different kind of LED from the one I used in the last video. I don't know if I've got the polarity right. I guess we'll find out. Apparently not. Then again, I don't even know if my stack is still in good contacts here. With all the light off, I can't really see what I'm doing either. Alright, I'm going to make one little modification here. Alright, I've made one very simple modification, and that is to place it on a piece of aluminum. Where did I? There they are. And now that I've done that, I can more easily do this. Focus, come on. There we are. See that? So yes, you can stack enough of these together, and you know, if I wanted to be a little more careful and trim the padding around the coins so that they don't overlap and they don't sag and they don't, you know, short between the cells, it would be a better battery, because I wouldn't be shorting between the cells, and I wouldn't have to worry about all of that anyway. But there you have it. You can make a battery at home using regular everyday materials. Now, if you're in Canada or, you know, England, I don't know where you could be, your coins may not be as compatible for this, because ours are made with copper, of course, on the penny, and the nickels are either nickel or zinc. I think it's a zinc blended with the copper as an alloy. But depending on what your coins are made of, this may or may not work as well, or it may or may not work better. So try it, and let me know how you get on with that, and leave that in the comments. Leave a link to your video. So until then, have a good one.